It's election time here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and all campaigns are gearing up. It's after Labor Day, and candidates are hitting the trail. Joining us to talk about the 2025 Virginia Election Series and kick it off is none other than NSU alum and our delegate in the 91st District, none other than Delegate Cliff Hayes Jr. Cliff, how are you doing this Sunday morning?
Well, Dr. Clavell, it's absolutely wonderful to be here once again with the NSU family and alumni all across the Commonwealth, or the nation for that matter, as we talk about our upcoming session.
Absolutely. And listen, when you said the nation, all eyes are on Virginia. And I always say, as Virginia goes, so goes the rest of the country. I know you see it. We talk a lot. We're good friends. I know the people that are listening see it and hear it. But so much is going on here in the country and impacting the Commonwealth. We've always said that elections have consequences, and I think we're seeing it right now, right?
Oh, there's no question you're seeing the consequences of lack of participation, and that we're living out in real time.
Oh, man, look, there were some things I thought I would never see, that the generations before us, our grandparents and parents that fought for civil rights, I thought that was done, right? But it looks like this generation is going to have to fight for it again.
All over again, because some folks believe in certain policy violence measures, that being the attack and assault on health care in this country, the attack and assault on public education in this country. And then, of course, as the late Coretta Scott King mentioned, it's a form of violence if you allow this stuff to happen and not get involved.
And talk about getting involved, I think one of the greatest ways to get involved, and you actually have taken that step, is to become an elected official and make sure that our voice is heard. So you've been serving in the 91st District and serving in public office for now combined over a decade. And later on today, as a matter of fact, you're up for re-election and you are launching your re-election campaign. Tell us a little bit about what individuals can expect this afternoon.
Yeah, and actually, before serving in the General Assembly, those 10 years, I served 2 terms, which were 8 years on the Chesapeake City Council, starting with 2004 through 2012. So we've actually been at this for quite some time. On the local level, the state level, I'm just mindful of the late Dick Price and, of course, Marty Miller conversation that we had, and they just simply said it's important for you to throw the rope back. And we know firsthand, up close and personal, what that means for our state university. And not only that, it spills over into every aspect of our lives as policy decisions do affect us on a daily basis.
Oh, absolutely. Throwing the rope back is something that helps to build generations to come. So this afternoon, what's taking place over in the great city of Portsmouth?
Well, we'll be getting together there from 4 to about 7 p.m. there, just having a good time, listening to wonderful music, having a fun time. But at the same time, it is about purpose. And so we will also be discussing some of the policy issues on the state level as well as the federal level, as we'll be joined by other leaders in our state as well as federal delegation. When it comes to education, when it comes to labor, we'll have our ranking member congressionally, Congressman Bobby Scott, with us on this afternoon. And then, of course, on the state level, as you know, I serve on appropriations, health, welfare, and institutions, so all things healthcare, and then, of course, all things technology, where I serve as chair. So important matters on the state level, important matters on the federal level. So we're going to have a little party, but it's a party with a purpose.
Absolutely. Speaking of a party with a purpose, I think I'll be there as well. So.
Oh, absolutely. We appreciate you. And just know that it is a sold-out event, And so wanted to make sure that we have some wonderful folk, great leadership kind of guiding, if you will, and driving the event. And so we're happy to have co-host and you and our dear friend, our sister,
Benita Harris,
but
yeah, absolutely.
Billingsley Harris.
That's right. Billingsley Harris. Absolutely. So listen, we're looking forward to it. I know as soon as we get out of the studio here, we're getting ready to gear it up to go over, but we're really excited to be a part of this great lunch and the things that you've done as a public servant. And again, it is public service. And I want our listeners to understand that when our elected officials, when they run, when they get out, when they're elected, they're serving you, the public. And there's nobody that does it better than you, my good friend, Cliff Hayes Jr. Delegate Hayes, I want you to talk a little bit about your agenda for 2025 in this reelection. What are some of the things that you want to continue to do? What do you believe are some things that are facing Virginians, your district, and more specifically, African Americans, especially in this turbulent time?
Well, it's terrible right now. We had one agenda that we plan to introduce and work with others to implement during the next session. But, of course, we've been thrown an outside pitch. And so we're going to have to change up. We're going to step towards right field and drive it to right field. We're going to adjust.
That's right.
We're going to be agile because we got some chaos coming out of Washington right now.
Well, listen. If it's somebody to know how to adjust to an outside pitch, I think it's you, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If it's inside, we're gonna pull it down the line, down third base line. But if it's outside, we gotta step towards right field and drive it to right field and make sure that we get some runs in.
Absolutely. So, what are some of the things that you're going to have to adjust in the legislature and working together with your colleagues?
Well, we know after just this summer, the big crazy bill has introduced quite substantially some problems for us. We also know that the tariffs that have been introduced have created such a problem with our economy. We also know that flat-out job cuts to Virginians has been a problem. And we know that health care, when it comes to Medicare, Medicaid, and SNAP, when it comes to the nutrition for those in need, all of that stuff has been cut. And so we got some cleaning up to do. We got some shoring up to do here in the Commonwealth. And so that's what we're going to be sharpening our pencils, sharpening our budget. Obviously, the governor will introduce his budget in December, and our session starts in January. So I think he's been reminded since his term started, and we'll continue with the same posture that the governor proposes and the General Assembly disposes. So as we get together for that budget, he'll propose his budget in December, and if it has a bunch of egregious things to carry on and carry the water of what's happening in the White House right now, then of course the House and the Senate knows very well how to build a budget from the ground up. And so that's what we will do in January.
Absolutely. And when we talk about doing things as a group in the legislature, you are no stranger to that. I talk about the importance of voting. And there were other states that limited voting and limited access to voting. But I remember under Governor Northam's administration and along with the House of Delegates and the Senate, you worked together to expand voting and access here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Tell us a little bit about the importance of seeing that years ago and the importance of it now.
Yeah, the democracy in which our nation promises is one that we have to have it live out. And that's our jobs, is to make sure that we do what we said on paper. And so voting is one of the staples in the democracy. A great pronoun is we. that we participate in this process of electing our leaders and holding them accountable. And so that's what we'll be doing. We'll be encouraging all folks over the age of 18 that are eligible that they not only register to vote, but we're going to make sure that we educate them on the issues and then make sure that they get to the polls. In our democracy, I've always said it's important for us to agitate, to legislate, and then, of course, litigate, because that's going to be necessary sometimes too, and make sure that we educate folks and get them to the polls.
Absolutely. Educate, agitate, and litigate. Make sure you get to the poll and make sure that your voice is heard. It's Stay the Water. I'm your host, Eric Claville, and you're joining us for our kickoff of our 2025 Virginia Election Series. Joining us to talk about why it's important to vote and also his reelection bid and the House of Delegates here in the Commonwealth of Virginia is none other than NSU alum, my good friend, Delegate Cliff Hayes Jr., representing the 91st District. We want to let you know, remind you that your vote matters. Make sure that you are registered to vote. If not, you can be registered to vote. Just simply go to your local clerk of court's office or voter registration office in your area and you can register to vote. Now, according to the Virginia Department of Elections, the election starts is November 4th for the general election for governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, all 100 seats that are Virginia delegates and local offices as well. You can register to vote up to October 24th. And early in-person voting starts September 19th, this month, all the way through November 1st. And you can apply for a ballot to be mailed in to you through October 24th as well. So make sure that your voice is heard because it is the most powerful weapon that we have in our democracy. Delegate Hayes, we just talked about the importance of voting and, of course, the length of time that you have to vote. Early voting starts. But now I want to kind of needle down into what's actually going to be on the ballot in November 4th. And, of course, early voting, September 19th, you can start. So let's start at the top. We have the gubernatorial election. We have our candidates for the election, Abigail Spanberger, former Congresswoman, and the current Lieutenant Governor, Winsome Sears. Tell us the impact of those two candidates, the historic impact, and then what voters should be looking for as they look to vote for those candidates.
Yeah, it's going to be important for us to make sure that we have a partner that's willing to listen to what it is that the House and the Senate, in terms of policy, those measures that we have, how wonderful it will be to get back in a posture that rather than for us to be a backstop to what our governor is doing, to be partnering and collaborating what our governor proposes. Some great things, as you mentioned before, happened early on when we had control of the governor's mansion as well as the three top positions, including our democracy. So early voting here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, which had been stifled for decades, all of a sudden opened up, and we now have 45 days of early voting. We have mail-in voting. All of those things are extremely important. We even have Sunday voting. So here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, we've set an example of what voting should, access to the ballot box should look like all across the country. So we're happy that that's the case. When it comes to education and public education here in the Commonwealth, we made sure that our teachers' salaries are now above the national average. So that happened because of collaboration for an administration that also shared the vision of putting teachers first. And then, of course, our students all across our Commonwealth should be well taken care of in terms of the opportunity for high-quality education, while at the same time addressing the challenges of mental health in our schools. So we now have those professionals available in our schools assisting our full-time basis rather than just on paper. And then, of course, we're doing all we can for our economy. When we had control of the governor's mansion as well as the House and the Senate, Virginia twice was named the best state for business. And that is because employers, as well as businesses, as well as the community, and those who recognize what business opportunities really look like and should look like MSNBC named Virginia twice as the best state for business back to back, only to find ourselves under this administration drop and fall in the rankings 2 years in a row. So we know what actually is going to be necessary for our businesses to thrive here in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Absolutely. Now, when we talk about thriving in business, of course, under this governor, it said that, our state is open for business and has been ranked number one for doing business. But we also know that this didn't happen overnight, that there are many administrations that have worked toward this as well. And also with us being in a great fiscal setting. Now, when we talk about fiscally sound, when we look at the cuts coming down from the White House and also from Congress and the bill that was signed, you mentioned earlier, what can Virginians expect to be the impact to our services here in the Commonwealth?
Well, again, we're going to do all we can to modify a plan that we had because we're going to have to deal with some of the cuts and treacherous actions that have been affecting not only the country's economy, but certainly we're feeling it here in the Commonwealth and in Hampton Roads. So from the state perspective, we'll be working to provide some protections in the way of health care. We know that the Medicare and Medicaid cuts are going to hurt. We know that the supplemental nutrition and assistance program is going to be impacted negatively. So for those students who need that assistance, we're going to make sure that we do all we can to soften that blow as well. We have a lot of cleaning up to do, for our Commonwealth of Virginia because of the impacts of what's happening through President Trump and his actions. There have been folks on the national level, including members of his party, who are afraid to speak up and speak out about the damage that he's causing, but we're not afraid. And so we believe that when this election is over, we're going to send a resounding message across this country as they see us flip and take those top three positions back, the governor, lieutenant governor, as well as the attorney general. And we grow the number of members of the House of Delegates here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So we believe that number might be somewhere around 60. So we'll go from 51 members to 60 members, and we're excited about it. We can't get to January fast enough.
Look, when you talk about growing it up to 60, in this era, that's what we call almost a super majority. I want you to talk a little bit about the importance of the lieutenant governor and the attorney general's race, because a lot of times we look at the top of the ticket, right? The executive office, the president, the governor, and the like, but we forget about what's called those damn ballot elections and the importance of it. What is important about the lieutenant governor, especially in the Senate and their impact, and also the importance of the attorney general here in the Commonwealth?
Yeah, the lieutenant governor in the Senate actually becomes a tiebreaker under circumstances that there are tie. And we know that there have been significant measures that were able to get passed because at the time we had a lieutenant governor that was on our side, and that was prior to this administration. Medicaid expansion rolled on because of it. And so we're excited about a lot of different measures as that lieutenant governor will preside over the Senate and be the tiebreaker. When it comes to the Attorney General's office, the chief prosecutor in the state, that individual, when they're on your side, can be, a great friend. But if they're not a member of your party, they can be a thorn in your side. So we're looking for a partner and an attorney that shares the vision that we're going to have in the General Assembly, and that is none other than Attorney Jay Jones. We're looking forward to him being our next Attorney General so that not only our policies here in the Commonwealth of Virginia and his opinions that are written about those items can move our policies along versus us being hamstrung by someone who will just try to be an impetus to progress. Secondly, we need that role to stand up and speak up on behalf of the Commonwealth of Virginia when we see negative impacts and negative policies that come down and executive orders, et cetera, that come down from the White House. We'll have a voice here in the Commonwealth of Virginia that will speak up for Virginians.
Absolutely. Now, when we talk about the House of Delegates, all 100 seats in the House of Delegates are up for re-election or election this cycle. And the House of Delegates is an important part of the three-tiered part of our government here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, very similar to the House of Congress, where you have the House of Representatives. And you mentioned our Congressman, U.S. Congressman Bobby Scott, serving for the 3rd Congressional District here. When you mention the majority, there's the White House can't do what it does now unless it has the majority in the House of Representatives. So a lot of these things that we're seeing that's happening to us is because the House is signing off on it and it becomes law, of course, going back to the Senate, and then the president signs it. You talked about right now you're at 53 Democrats and looking for a supermajority of 60. What are some of the districts here in the Commonwealth, including yours, that are pivotal to achieving and maintaining that 53 but achieving that 60?
Well, let me just start with how important it is to have such a thorough Speaker of the House that we have here in the Commonwealth today. That is Speaker Don Scott, who's a delegate as well. Without our majority, we don't get the first African-American Speaker of the House in the Commonwealth's existence. Without the majority in the Senate, we don't get the President pro tem and Chair of Senate Finance and Senator L. Louise Lucas. Without the majority, we don't get these two powerful individuals coming from one locality here in Hampton Roads. We don't get all of the policy issues, all the budgetary issues that we have been able to celebrate in the last couple of years. So all that to say, to compare when I got to the General Assembly and it was only 36 Democrats, how gruesome it was to think about trying to get anything passed versus today when you have the majority and you can be appointed to committees on your merit versus politics. And so I know firsthand how important it is that myself, I am chairing the subcommittee of appropriations, which is general government and capital outlay. And I know the many great things that we've been able to do across the Commonwealth in the way of capital as well as general government outside of our public universities and on the agendas for our public universities as well as our HBCUs. So we've been able to get some magnificent progress done under these terms. So we've got to solidify and shore up the members of the House and grow that number so that we send a message also across this country as people are watching this upcoming election. And the tide, the wave of the tsunami of this election will spill over to our midterm congressional elections next year.
Absolutely. And listen, it's going to kick off this afternoon, this wave, this tide, with none other than the Sunday Blue Crescendo. Where Delegate...
That's why we call it a crescendo. It's building up. It's building up.
Absolutely. Where Delegate Cliff Hayes will kick off his re-election lunch and also kick off here in Hampton Roads the push for the Blue Crescendo or the Blue Tide in order to take back and continue, not take back, but also maintain the House of Delegates, a supermajority, and take back the governor's house, the attorney general, and also lieutenant governor position as well. Delegate Hayes, listen, how can, as a friend to an institution, definitely someone who is valued as a true MVP of NSU and a champion, how can voters and volunteers get involved with your campaign?
Specifically, you can reach out. We need poll workers for Election Day. We need poll workers for our early voting, which kicks off on the 19th, on that Friday. Those early voting sites need poll workers as well. We need you to call your friends, call your enemies, call your frenemies, call anybody that you know and get them to participate in this upcoming election. That is extremely, extremely, extremely important. There have been some folks who have carved out pathways, sacrificed their lives, that we might have access to the ballot box. And so, as Dick Price and Marty Miller would say, throw the rope back. Then, of course, for our general election, we need to make sure that people are participating on that day. So it makes a difference when you have the polls covered. So when people are coming to the polls and asking who it is that best aligns with our policies, then we want to make sure that there are people there to communicate that message to those voters when they come to the polls. I don't have opposition this time, but there are some key races here in Hampton Roads that we need to make sure we put a shoulder to the wheel and get them across the finish line. There are key races in Hampton Roads. We need to make sure that happens. Well,
absolutely.
And we just need to make sure that happens.
Absolutely. Well, once again, thank you so much, as always, for kicking off our election series as you have done the last several years. So it's a tradition. And for those of you that are listening, thank you for joining us, as you always do, as we bring movers, shakers, and policymakers to you to discuss issues important to the community. Until next time, be good, be great, God bless, and tune in every Sunday as we'll have a different candidate and important information for you for this upcoming election. God bless, and we'll see you next week.
Hi, I'm Carrie Washington, and you're listening to State of the Water with award-winning host Dr. Eric Claville.